we're going on to our second presentation, Cyberculture and Historical Heritage, Experiences at Boa Esperança Farm. It's by Leandro Magalhães. Thank you, Leandro, for being here.
So we begin with this phrase from Audre Lorde. For the master tools will never dismantle the master's house. Boa Esperança Farm is a farm here in Minas Gerais, and it's a small part of my doctorate research, and I will present it to you. Okay, let's start with the location of this farm. Here we can see where we are, Belo Horizonte, and the city of Belo Vale, which is close to the city of Moeda. We can get there driving for an hour and a half, something like that. And this is a close view about of the region of the farm. I will show you some places that are important to us. So where it shows FBE, it's the farm. And really close to this, there is this place called Boa Morte, which is a Quilombola community. The Quilombola communities are places where the slave, after they worked for a long time and get old or sick, or even when they escaped, they would go to the Quilombos and establish their homes there. So nowadays, it's a small village called Boa Morte, and you can go walking from the farm to there. It's a Quilombola community that was formed by ex-slaves, former slaves of the Fazenda Boa Esperança, of the Boa Esperança farm. This farm is so important as an architecture icon that it was protected by our institutions that take care of our heritage. So first it was IFAM around the 50s, and they protected the construction of the fazenda, of the farm, sorry. And this is a phrase of Lúcio Costa when he took part of the process of protection. We called it tombamento of a building. But this paper here, it shows, it's from 1971, and it shows concern about the destruction and the way that the farm was getting in order of a bad maintenance. So it was falling apart. When it happened, the state of Minas Gerais decided to amplify the protection and also protected the farm. So it has double protection from both federal government and the state of Minas Gerais government. This is the farm nowadays. It's important to say that when the state decides to protect something, it no longer becomes, it no longer exists as only a building. Now it has it has a function, a social function. So every cultural and historical heritage we have, they have to give something back to us as a society. What we must understand that it's a very good place. It's a lovely place, a great place to be. You can see over there, it's the main building. It has over 20 rooms. It has a floor in like an L, a shape of an L floor plan. And these two big trees in front of it, they are called sapucaias. The farm has great and really big green areas surrounding it, and it's all part of it's all property of the state. You can go there, you can meet your friends. You can even have a picnic over there if you want. As I said, it's a lovely place to be. But that's not all. As I said, it needs to take part and to give back something to the society. We must remember that this farm was built on the end of the 18th century. It means that it worked with great amount of slaves working on it. The man who built it was a man called, he was a baron. He was even a very important politician in Minas Gerais. He was the president of the province of Minas Gerais, and he lived there. And for over 80 years he lived, he had many slaves. And we can find about that reading documentation. There are many old documents that shows us really large amounts of slaves. When this man died in 1855, he had 167 slaves under his name. But nowadays, we can't see any track of the presence of these people over there. All that is left is the big and main construction. When we read the documentation that was made in order to protect this building, all we can read about is about its architecture, about this small church right here. There's a small church, a private church. It was very usual at that time. And that's all we can read about, how it was built, how it's beautiful. Okay, so as it is open to the public, now the state decided to open it as a museum. And that was the first time I had contact with the farm. The farm is completely empty. It's like a shell. We have the main building with no furniture inside. We have many gaps of buildings that were there, but are no longer, and others that are covered by vegetation. So we understood that everyone that was visiting the farm wanted to see how it worked, because the absence, they are really big. You go there, you see that beautiful place, and you think how it worked, how it was 200 years ago. So we decided to build a few exhibition design resources that could give a tiny perspective of how it worked. There are two main of these resources, which are this one. It's a box. Inside a box, there's a model, a physical model. You look through a hole, and then you see how it was with little furniture. And the other one is a drawing. I'm sorry, it's small, but we don't need to look the details of it. But we made it like a section cut, so you can see inside the building and see people working, people living, eating, and doing their stuff. So that's what we could achieve in this museum process of this farm. Okay, and this is another space of the farm. You see where it is at further. It's the place where we had a mill of sugarcane. And it's also called a paiol, which is a building that a storage building back in the day. Nowadays, this building is so well built that it can receive multiple types of events. This picture shows adaptation for, it was an educational event that took place at the farm Boa Esperança. So it doesn't make any sense if we want to rebuild something only to show how it was to people. And also, when we protect a building, somehow we also make it frozen. We freeze it in time. We can't make great physical changes. So this kind of use of the building, I think it's very good because it makes a building alive. Okay, it's 200 years old, 232 years old building. So we must use it. It's ours. These are also views of this building that I showed from inside, now from outside, that rocks all over the wall building that stood still for all this time. This was built by the hands of enslaved people. So when the research starts, it starts with the gaps, with the questions, how it worked, what was here before, who worked here. And I decided to go further with the research to find out more about this place. And the more I looked, more I found. The first place to look at, it's the farm itself. There are small tracks everywhere that indicate how it worked. For instance, we have that number over there, which indicates the date of construction of this building, the rock building. It's 1820. We have carving on rocks all over that indicates usage, gates opening. And at the back of that building, we have this structure. This structure aligns perfectly to a hole on the other side of the building, on the back of the building. So this is where the research started, because I saw that and I thought, well, there was a water mill here. So I proceeded with this part of the research, which was the digitation of many geometry of the farm that I could bring into the computer and kept going with these studies. So here I'm showing you two digitized geometries from the farm: the wall, the rock wall, and the base of the base of the water mill aligned to the hole, the window at the wall. So we go further, we went further and further and researched a lot over the technology of mills used to produce sugarcane. It show there are many books that shows us how this technology was, all the parts of it. We took a while to find out which model exactly did the farm use, but the space of the farm itself showed us, and it molded which technology was used. And we found out that it was exactly this model with a water mill outside. This water mill gets outside the building. And then inside, we have the mill of sugarcane itself. We also found out old pictures that IFAM has. IFAM is an institution that takes care of heritage in Brazil. And it shows us structures that belong to the process of producing sugarcane. So, sorry. So as a diagram, let me show you how did it go when we merged the 3D digitation and the model that we made from the farm. So first the axis, and then the water mill, and all the parts of it. So with the 3D digitation, we could have precise geometric informations that we used to find out which technology was in. So we found out all the names of the parts and everything. But okay,
But that's not all. After we did that, I presented this part of the research to other colleagues, and they made me many questions. And okay, but one that marked me was what else? What else can we build? What are the real gaps we are looking for? The real gaps that I was feeling as a black man, a researcher, was the people. Where were the workers? How can I represent the workers at this place? So I began looking for the places that and pieces of history that could show me a little bit more of the enslaved people over there. These are the senzalas, which are the quarters of the enslaved people. And it was demolished. Why it was demolished? That's a very important question. When the IFAM protected the building, everything was there. The senzalas, the main building, and many other parts of it. But then they decided to demolish. Let's keep going. So we started digging and trying to find out more about enslaved people that lived over the farm. If we think we had like over 100 years of slavery at the farm, although that's not a question that is properly shown over there. So we went to find out more about the senzala, which are the enslaved quarters.
Shared.
It's not shared. All we had was that picture, and that's something very curious. When we tried to find more pictures of it, all the pictures of the farm, even the old ones, they all focus on the main building. It looks like everyone wants to forget the ugly part because it was ugly and it's shameful. Okay, so we went through all the IFAM archives and found many other senzalas over Brazil. We merged both the old pictures and this architecture. And then we built a model that could merge all the findings. Our intention began with virtual reality, but then our objectives became wider. So virtual reality is a part of the project, but the main part became the findings that we made, increasing the knowledge over the Boa Esperança farm. This image shows a scene that is composed by many layers about the farm. The main of it that we've been talking about are the senzalas, or the quarters of the enslaved people, which are that building. Look at the size of the building. It takes great importance to understand the space of the farm, but it's not there anymore. And to build it again is not an option because it was already demolished. So now that it's protected, we can't build anything over there. So this is where the digital solutions present to us as a good way to provide an embodied experience of the place without having to actually build it. We can also build a library of all the findings and open it to the public. Imagine students, artists, everyone, even Netflix could take part of it and make a game, a movie, a TV series, a book. We found out many stories that will be shown at the final work, but about enslaved people that run away from the farm, and then they were recaptured, and then they were jailed. There are complex histories that took place at the farm. This is a small, I hope it doesn't crash, but I'll play this video. You warn me if it crashes, okay? So it shows my son. I had to tell him to help me, the experiment, but he is walking at the spaces of the farm as it was at the 19th century. There was this big fountain, too. I won't go to the details of it. All set there, no problems. So that view that we were having was around this place here, looking over there, and this is the front of the farm. But there are many other spaces. Over there, at the corner, that building that I told you, that with the mill and everything, the main building. So this big model is already rigged to operate a game, cultural tool, educational tool, anything that can come. I was not, it was not my goal to actually do the final work, but to create means so it can be made by others, by anyone. The people at the images, they are draws made by Henry Chamberlain, which we cut out from the back and put inside the 3D model. We have to think about how to show people in this kind of model. But one way that became more sensitive way that we found out, we established a good connection with the Quilombola communities that I told you earlier that are really close to the farm. And this is Tuquinha. Tuquinha is, she descends from slave people. She knows that. She lives at the Quilombola community. And they protect songs that they have about the time of slavery. So it was our proposition that while looking at the farm rebuilt with people working on it, instead of only looking with a merely seeing experience, we can also hear these songs. So it merges both material and immaterial heritage. He even brought the song here, but I don't think it's going to play. But it's a song where she asks us permission to get inside the farm, because the permission had to be given by the landlord.
Eu tenho que pedir licença. Então tem um canto de licença. A gente fala ritual de licença. Senhorio, me dá licença para eu entrar aqui agora. Senhorio, me dá licença para eu entrar aqui agora. Se me der licença eu entro, se não der eu vou embora. Se me der licença eu entro, se não der eu vou embora. Senhorio, me dá licença para eu cantar aqui agora. Senhorio, me dá licença para eu cantar aqui agora. Se me der licença eu canto, se não der eu vou embora. Se me der licença eu canto, se não der eu vou embora. Senhorio, me dá licença para eu entrar aqui agora. Senhorio, me dá licença para eu entrar aqui agora. Se me der licença eu entro, se não der eu vou embora.
So with that idea, we wrote a project. In Brazil, we have a legislation that allows us to grab tax money and invest them into cultural projects. So we wrote a project called Cantos do Engenho, which means songs of the mill, of the farm, something like that. And Besides, we didn't get a sponsorship. We could see that it is possible to write virtual reality projects and find money with companies that instead of paying tax, they can put some money into the project. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. It was very nice how you guided us through your process. Because I was expecting how virtual reality was entering your discourse, but it was very interesting to see your whole process of thinking and how you get there, because I think it reveals a potential of virtual reality and the digital domain, how it can be coupled with existing structures to recount the past or to bring back these feelings. And I was very curious about it because that's a long time ago I visited a Holocaust museum in Budapest. And it was a very strong experience, and what I think it was interesting about this, because they were not showing pictures, but they're trying to bring back the atmosphere. So this was quite impressive. So we went out of the museum with this heavy feeling. They did manage to do this. And I was thinking back then how it would be interesting to bring the idea of virtual reality, but not only at the visual level. I think virtual reality brings us to the question of the eye, the detached eye. And so I think this idea to bring the songs and the sounds seems to be very important to me. Did you think about amplifying this? Because I think it's very interesting to bring back to people. I think one of the most important aspects, like you said. So did you think about other strategies that could be coupled with this to bring back this atmosphere, a more complete idea of immersion that goes beyond the visual, that you start with sound?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, and we have given lots of thinking over that, and there are many possibilities that we have seen already. I think one of the things that we can explore are the narratives. Instead of only showing a place or even playing the song, we have context and documentation, old papers. We have many information that can help us to create fictional stories, but with historical precision. I think that is a very important and powerful way to experience the farm in the virtual reality. So we can, for instance, tell the story about the enslaved that was called Joaquim Antonio, that escaped from the farm twice. And it's a big thing. And also, I've been talking, I don't know if I'll do that by now, but I've been talking to the people in the community, and some of them already approved face scanning. That I make their face scanning and put them inside the experience. So there are these people that know exactly, they can draw their family tree and go back to an enslaved person inside the farm. And that's very curious because the farm was protected because of the architecture. But the actual meaning of it is the place of many families were born. It's like the first place that many of the people at that community recognize as the origin of their family, because it starts there. And also there's a Brazilian writer, she's called Conceição Evaristo, and she has a very powerful saying about that, because we must understand that this lack of memory brings us to the place where we are now with racism. And she tells us how important fiction is in order to fill the gaps of history. So that's what many movies do, like Django, Tarantino. If you watch that movie, it's not a real story, but the characters over there, the objects that they show, the clothes they wear, even the landscapes that are shown, they are all historically correct. So I imagine something like that, a way. And just to finish it, I think that the different thing that we can do is not to hold all this in my hands and only Leandro will think about it. No. I think it would be great if we had this great library of knowledge, of 3D assets, the full model, everything opened. When I finish my research, I hope to open it all and also teach the discipline and offer to the students, what do you want, what history do you want to tell here? And also the community. Which histories do you want to tell at your farm? Because it's yours, it's ours. So those are the ways I've been thinking about. Thank you.
So, Leandro, thank you very much for your presentation. Also, I have like two questions for you. Like, for example, now we have in law that schools need to teach Black history, and especially for young kids and at the fundamental and mid-level school. And I think that this could be a very interesting tool, especially for this kind of educational purpose. You know, like, of course, all the uses you said that could be made of this research you're doing, they're all very important, but I think that there is an educational possibility that it's clear in your talk. You know, I think it was an educational process for you also. Yeah. So I think that how do you see the development of this tool? You said a lot of things about etc. But in this direction, like this is this a possibility for having a platform to educate people about Black history? That's something that is, you know, little present in Brazilian history. And another thing is a suggestion in terms of process. You know, like, for example, you were an outsider going there and making a survey and etc. Is there in your scope, or at least, you know, in further developments, to teach the communities to do their own research about their own history, to, you know, choose how they want to tell their own history? No, because of course it's a super nice step and super, you know, like a super potent tool. I have no doubts about it, but, you know, like, I think we need to think of the possible unfoldings of that process, and it's a suggestion, of course, because photogrammetry can be made with little technology. Of course, not the quality represented, but these more rudimentary models, etc. To these people know more about their own history, like a self-archaeological process of their communities. Maybe that could be a possibility. And so the first question is that about the platform, and the second is about the financing for the project. You told that in your last slide, but I wasn't, you know, sure about how you did it, if you got the money or it's intended to, it's free work. Yeah, so how do you see possibilities for financing? Because there is a gap there. We need to learn Black history. When people try to teach Black history, they know we don't have money for you. We don't, like, here you can grab this book. So how do you see this, the possibilities also for fines, because I think there is an important thing when you're doing with high technological procedures. How do you foster people to go in that direction, to research these things, especially outside academia, because you're not exactly outside academia, you're doing PhD, but you also have your company that do jobs, etc. So how do you see these kinds of initiatives being funded by state company, and etc. And how do you see this as a branch of your company that could be developing educational tools, that has as focus Black history, teaching Black history, etc.
Great idea.
Maybe some royalties.
Okay. I'll start with the first part of your question. You asked about the platform. I haven't given a thought on it, but at the beginning of the project, it was a little different. I thought about bringing people closer, but we had the pandemics and it had to change everything. So that idea is long gone for now. But we know that at the farm, daily, they receive school buses from the region, from everywhere. And I think that this experience that I'm proposing is to be used mostly at the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, of course that we can use it everywhere. It's something we can do with virtual reality. You can go to the farm without being at the farm, but at the farm, the experience is different. So I imagine as educational platform, the use at the farm for those kids that go there by bus. But that would be a special project written, approved, and paid by someone. I will achieve a prototype of it that will be shown at the end of the thesis, but I'm not sure if I will be able to publicize it yet. Which leads us to the second question about funding. I could approve the project, the national law that gives money to culture, tax money reverted to culture, but I couldn't find a sponsorship. There are many reasons for that. We can discuss that for hours, but I believe that the companies must be aware of this possibility or must be prepared to it. I think when I say enslaved people, they, oh my God, they get a little frightened. I was really close to get funding, really, really close. I made over 20 meetings, and it's not expensive project. It was 200,000 reais, which was the maximum that we can approve as a first project. But it's been approved for the past 3 years, and I stopped looking for money because I thought that if I could get the funding in the middle of the research, I could get now with a product. But I had to do everything on my own. So the possibility is there. I also joined a community of XR experiences. It's called the Brazilian Association of Extreme Reality. And I could see that there's a great range of companies working all kinds of projects in Brazil. Huge amounts of people producing, creating, and getting crazy with virtual reality. And they are also looking for funding, and they have a very good study, research about the funding and the Brazilian situation on extreme reality. And they show that many are getting funded by laws like the one that I applied to. So I believe that it's possible, but I also believe that we end up doing, you have to build your project to attend some company, and that may be a problem. It would be better if we had independent money, like research money, university money, so you can actually build something without strings attached. It would be very powerful. So, did I answer
Yes.
all of your questions?